Hello everyone, and welcome to the Violinistics Series at the Organ-ic Violin Square YouTube channel. My name is Iván, and welcome to the first episode of the Violinistics Series. Today we'll be looking at 3 underrated violin concertos that I believe should be played more often. Let's jump right into it. The first violin concerto we'll be looking at today is the Violin Concerto No. 2 in D minor by Max Bruch. Yes, you heard it right. It is the Violin Concerto No. 2 by Max Bruch. The first concerto is the one that we all know and love, the one in G minor that was dedicated to Joseph Joachim. However, this concerto unfortunately did not achieve the same success as the first concerto, even though Max Bruch regarded this concerto much more highly than the first concerto. If this concerto was so well written, why did it suffer such a relapse in music history? Well, there are several answers to this question, and first of all, and it was overshadowed by the first violin concerto. There's a story that Max Bruch went to Italy and that violinists lined up in the streets as he walked by, and they all played his first violin concerto. While I guess he maybe was happy to see that people were playing his music, he was not very happy that people weren't paying attention to his other violin concertos, and that's why he proposed that people learn his Violin Concerto No. 2 in D minor. The second reason why Bruch's Violin Concerto No. 2 is not that popular is because the Nazis banned Bruch's music. The Nazis suspected that Bruch was quote-unquote potentially Jewish, therefore they banned all his works throughout Nazi Germany. The only couple works that survived these bans were, of course, the Violin Concerto No. 1, the Scottish Fantasy, and the Kol Nidre, as they were performed extensively elsewhere. The third reason why this concerto isn't very popular is because it is an unusual form. It does not follow the usual fast, slow, fast pattern. Instead, it starts with a slow movement going into a recitative, which is a very free composed movement, and then finishes with a fast rondo. And the last 2 movements are connected together, which means that they cannot be played separately. Due to this reason, this concerto is very difficult to program in auditions, where movements usually need to be played separately. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. The second underrated violin concerto we'll be looking at today is the Violin Concerto in E minor by Julius Conius. This concerto once was very popular in the early 1900s. Chrysler gave its British premiere in 1910, while Conius himself had given the original premiere in the former Russian Empire in 1898. This concerto was taken up by Jascha Heifetz and performed extensively throughout his whole career. His final Carnegie Hall performance was with the Conius Violin Concerto. After Heifetz ended his career, this concerto suffered a relapse. But why did it? It was such a popular concerto. First of all, Julius Conius wasn't a very famous composer himself. This is probably the only work that he wrote that gets performed regularly. Other than that, he is virtually unknown for anything else he did. Finally, this violin concerto is suspected to be Rachmaninoff's unfinished violin concerto. Conius and Rachmaninoff were great friends and best students of Tchaikovsky back in the conservatoire. As the scholars speculate, Rachmaninoff gave up composing his concerto and gave it to Conius to finish, as Conius was an excellent violinist. The third concerto we'll be looking at is the Violin Concerto Opus 33 by Carl Nielsen. This violin concerto is not popular because Nielsen's music has not been popular for a long time. Only since 1960, about 30 years after Nielsen died, Leonard Bernstein began introducing his music to American audiences. Even though his 6 symphonies, the Latin Suite, the operas Sol Ogdavid and Masquerada have begun to hold their place in Western repertoire, the violin concerto unfortunately has not. This is due to the fact that this concerto is very unusually written. Above all, from being difficult, it is written in 2 very long movements consisting of a slow introduction and, in the case of the first movement, a sonata form, and in the second movement, a rondo. Both movements contain very long and difficult cadenzas, and this concerto utilizes what is called progressive tonality, in which the concerto begins in one key and ends in the other. This concerto, in fact, begins with a C minor chord, and the violin comes with a G minor chord, and the tonality, so to speak, is G minor. However, it ends on a D major chord. Even though it is very accessible and tonal, this concerto has not held its place as well as some other concertos of its time. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video interesting, and these concertos thought-provoking and entertaining. See you next time.